How's that for an intro? Sure beats that old gameplay with a filter on it from my Lethal League review. Lethal League, an extensive review, was my personal magnum opus for my channel, so I'm back to review yet another game. While still being a blind playthrough, I knew that I was entering a completely different realm, unlike when I played Lethal League. Without further ado, let's jump into the blurred line between crazily strange and crazily awesome. Goichi Suda's Killer7. Much like Lethal League, the summary I often use or see used about Killer7 and its gameplay is far from the complexity and true nature of the game's mechanics. The summary I usually hear is something along the lines of an on-rails shooter with puzzle elements. To an extent, the summary is correct. However, I believe the game to be much more than this description. Killer7 is indeed an on-rails shooter, but also contains branching paths that lead to optional puzzles or unique NPCs. This is seen most often in the level's encounter and alter ego, which we will analyze later. You aren't always playing as the same character though. You can swap between personalities during a level, each with their own weapons, abilities, and personalities. Killer7 cleverly incorporates the abilities of these characters by tailoring puzzles to fit a certain character's ability. For instance, in the level Angel, Kaede Smith is used to absorb blood on a wall to reveal a message that also acts as a password to progress in the level. Right around the corner, there is yet another puzzle that uses Kaede, as her ability also lets her knock down certain barriers. The aforementioned branching paths also often require the use of a specific personality. You can also level up certain stats of these personalities, such as attack power, sway while aiming, fire rate, range, and more. Before you can upgrade the personalities, you need thick blood, which can be gained by shooting Heaven Smiles in their weak points. The maximum amount of blood that can be held is 1000 BL, which I believe stands for deciliters. So, other than puzzles, what are these personalities used for? Well, I kinda spoiled my take and it's a shooter game, so take a wild guess. If you guess shoot terrorists that look like colorful versions of Resident Evil 7's molded enemies, then you were correct. The enemies of this game are the Heaven Smile. These creatures come in many shapes and sizes.
Out of your friends, which are you? Truck freak crazy ass. The fighter.
Some of these smiles can only be killed using certain personalities, notably the Protector trilogy, only being able to be killed by Masked Smith. Now that we've seen how the game operates as a whole, let's take a look at the specific characters. Garcian Smith is a soft-spoken and tough individual. Despite this, Garcian is very ineffective in battle. Garcian cannot be leveled up at all, and also does the least damage out of any unupgraded character. This does not mean Garcian is completely useless though. Garcian fills a supporting role, and is able to revive fallen personalities.
I'm a cleaner. I can feel no remorse when seeing a dead body.
Alright.
To me, it's merely cold,
let's just
rotting
make sure
flesh.
That we get this audio in here, so you can see how Garcian revives the fallen Smiths. My keyboard cannot take much more of these recordings. If Garcian falls, it is game over, and you have to reload a save even if other personalities are still alive. Dan Smith is the laid-back hellion of the Smiths, and is enemies with at least half of the Smith Syndicate to my knowledge. Dan is very powerful, even without upgrades, as he falls just short of Masked Smith's damage. His special ability is the Charge Shot. This large ball of energy consumes 3 thin blood vials. It is very effective against duplicators, smiles blocking doors, and random statues with pimples on them. Straight up, Dan's pretty good. Kaede Smith is a barefoot markswoman. She uses what seems to be an M1911 pistol with an affixed scope. I had to go back and check to confirm that I was crazy in thinking that it was a Desert Eagle. Kaede's pistol doesn't do much damage, but it is very good at hitting smiles or bosses from further away. Make your shots count though, because Kaede's reload is slower than death itself. Unless you die as Kevin. Kaede's special ability is her stand, Mizuru. Coyote can use Misery to absorb blood into her wrist and shoot blood back out of her wrist to break down barriers. Mix this with the stand Metallica, and you have something really painful to watch. Kevin Smith is the taciturn rogue with iron skin. Kevin uses an endless supply of throwing knives to take down his enemies. When I say endless, I mean endless. Kevin never has to reload, which makes him very good for quick shooting, with the sacrifice of a little damage. Man of Steel Kevin is able to turn his silver skin clear when he takes off his glasses. When Kevin is invisible, no enemies will attack nor approach him, and Kevin can also pass through infrared lasers. Here's something fun to try out. Go invisible when you hear a roller smile start approaching you. You can thank me later. Coyote Smith is the born thief in the Smith Syndicate. He uses a revolver doing just a little less damage than Dan's unupgraded revolver. Also similar to Dan, Coyote can use a charge shot, though it only uses one vial and does not do as much damage. Coyote is able to pick any padlock, which means if he can't see this, then he can't pick it. In addition to his lock-picking abilities, Coyote can also jump great heights. This ability sees used very often during the level Cloudman. Con Smith is the blind punk of the Smith Syndicate. Con uses 2 Glocks, which he holds double gangster style. The unupgraded shots from these pistols surpass the damage of Kevin. However, since Con shoots very fast and also has an upgradable fire rate, Con can output a lot of damage in a short amount of time. Being blind, Con has a heightened sense of hearing, which can be used to traverse long corridors in literally one level. Con's other ability is used for a more practical purpose. Con has the ability of super speed, or as we in the speedrunning community call it, Mach. This ability does exactly what it says on the tin and allows Con to move incredibly fast. Mask Day Smith is an ex-pro wrestler and Macho Man Supreme. Mask uses 2 grenade launchers, one in each hand. These weapons are by far the most powerful in the game, both unupgraded and fully upgraded. Mask can blast open any cracks in walls using his grenade launchers. Mask's ability isn't much of anything to write home about, he just uses pro wrestling moves often to clear pathways. The true abilities of Mask are his upgrades earned during the second half of the game. These, in my eyes, earn him the nickname Mighty Morphin Mask Day Smith. Harmon Smith is the original personality of the Smith Syndicate and comes in 2 flavors, old and young. Old Harmon is only played during specific points during the story. Young Harmon, on the other hand, is only playable in Killer 8, a mode unlocked after beating the main story. Without going too much into Killer 8, Harmon is the only Smith that can survive after being hit by a Heaven Smile. Harmon's Tommy gun is fully automatic and exceeds the damage of Dan's revolver. However, Harmon's stats cannot be upgraded at all, so what you see is what you get. There's Killer7's main gameplay in a nutshell. Now, let's take a look at the specific levels in the game's main story. We'll analyze some of the gameplay in these levels, as well as summarize the story of the levels briefly. This does mean that anything beyond this point is spoiler territory. If anything you've seen has interested you, please, play the game for yourself, or watch a Let's Play before returning to this video. With that warning out of the way, let's take a look at our first target, Angel. Angel is a very good introductory level to Killer 7. It has rooms with few enemies spawned at manageable distances away from the player. However, rooms with more than a few smiles can potentially overwhelm new players, as seen by when I first played the game. This, of course, varies on a player-by-player basis. Some players will adapt to the gameplay faster than others. I happen to be one of the ones that takes 5 years. As the story goes, the Smith Syndicate is sent to the Celtic Building, believed to be the new base for the Heaven Smile terrorist group. The Syndicate's informant, Christopher Mills, claims that there are only 14 Heaven Smiles, along with their leader, a man in a green coat. While venturing through the Celtic building, the Smiths are visited by remnant psyches of many past friends or enemies. On the topic of remnant psyches, Ewan Hune is a remnant psyche of the Syndicate's old informant. Ewan Hune and his true mask counterpart give hints to the puzzles throughout the levels. These puzzles are fairly simple, and I am unsure why I needed the help of Ewan Hune during my first playthrough. After completing a puzzle, you are often granted an odd engraving or soul shell. After collecting every soul shell, you can go through the Vinculum Gate and challenge the level's target head-on. The visuals of the Celtic building are some of the best in the game, with big shoutouts to the Boiler Room and Vinculum Gate Arena. The track, titled Celtic, playing in the background throughout the level is also very effective at setting an eerie vibe to the level. The track starts off with these high-pitched sound effects and subtle deep bass riffs. As the player continues throughout the level and gets accustomed to the gameplay, the music also starts to get more laid back, with a calm beat accompanying the creepy sounds from before. The Vinculum Gate smile seen during this target is the Speed Smile. This smile is similar to regular Heaven Smiles, but is constantly jerking its head in a different direction. The Speed Smile is never seen again for the rest of the game, much like the final Vinculum Gate smiles. After a short elevator ride, we arrive face to face with our target. Wait a minute. That's not a man in a green coat.
I'm the mother of this sacred place. Our 4 children served their purpose. They didn't die in vain. But our other 9 children were killed by you. What do you want from us? Is it so bad that we have a purpose in life? We are only serving our gods. At heaven's command, we will kill the unwanted. We must get rid of bad trees from their roots. I hope you are not one of them.
Good night, child. It's past your bedtime.
Before we can reach our true target, we must meet the mother of the Celtic building, the Angel. The Angel boss fight isn't too hard, you just have to shoot the 4 heads on her back. I believe the track, where angels play, also reflects the difficulty of the fight, as it's not over the top, but still retains a nice beat to it. After defeating the Angel, we come face to face with the Angel. Behind the newly revived entity appears Kun Lan, the man in the green coat that we were sent after, and a good friend of Harmon Smith.
Oops. I guess my trick didn't work on you.
Tricks are for kids, Coon. I'm an old man.
Yes.
Nothing has changed for 30 years. No matter how many times you try, the result will be the same.
Yes. Like our chess games. You always seem to win.
Do you know why?
You tell me.
Because you're a bad player.
A new generation of children will bring order to this age.
You're a good friend, but unfortunately, our interest is not mutual. We both have become burdened with so much, and we don't have time for fun anymore.
No, there's always time for fun. It's Friday night.
Let's dance.
After shooting his hand, he flies out of the Celtic building and lands on a nearby tower, declaring that the world will keep getting smaller, while a great track by Masafumi Takada, Angel's Despair, plays us out of the level and into the next target, Sunset. The levels that follow after Angel all start out in relatively the same way. The levels start out by Garcian eating some sort of breakfast and coffee, which is then interrupted by a call from Mills. Garcian then checks on Samantha, who is likely abusing Harmon in one way or another, and then talks to the big man Harmon himself. After gaining permission from Harmon, Garcian makes his way to an overpass in Seattle, where he and Mills discuss the specifics of the target. But before we stop at the overpass, let's see what's going on in DC.
Wait, look at this.
What is this? A bug in the system?
No, sir, it's reading right. There's 200.
A country could disappear off the map.
It's Japan.
What? Are the fireworks ready? No, forget it. Japan is our ally. Get the president on the line. This is an emergency call for the president. Interception can only commence 2 hours before initial impact. Shall we launch the fireworks? Mr. President, your assessment, sir.
Well, this isn't looking good for Japan. In this particular target, we are sent to Restaurant Fukushima to assassinate the restaurant's owner, Toru Fukushima, who's acting as a middleman between the representatives of Japan's UN party and the US government. Mills tells us to go see another informant, Hiro Kasai, if we are to get stuck during this target. Right off the bat, I could tell that Restaurant Fukushima was going to be much larger than the Celtic building, and, after playing the level, I can confirm my hunch was correct. The puzzles in this level, optional or otherwise, are all very simple and are easy to grasp for newer players, my only complaint being that I never figured out the Smith's abilities until finding out about them from carrier pigeons. So when I got to the vase of flowers and realized I didn't have the water ring, I had to figure out that Coyote is able to jump into the rafters of the building and get the ring from Susie. Like I had said back in the Angel section, this all depends on a player-by-player basis. In addition to the new puzzles, there are also some new smiles residing in Restaurant Fukushima. The first encountered smile, the bomb head smile, has an explosive shell around its head. The player can either wait for the shell to open and shoot the bomb head's non-bomb head, or can shoot the shell, killing the bomb head and damaging any nearby smiles or Smiths. The spiral smile is another new smile which rolls slowly across the floor. Its weak spot is identified by its light green color and can be shot during the spiral's slow rotation. The Another Smile is by far one of the most intimidating new smiles in this level. The Another Smile's body is similar to that of a regular Heaven Smile, but is slightly smaller. The smile crawls slowly across the ceiling until it gets close to the player, where it will then jump down and start crawling toward the unfortunate Smith. The constant, unpredictable movement of the Another Smile's limbs makes it hard to shoot its weak point. The Vinculum Gate smile seen during this target is the Phantom Smile. Kess warns you that the Phantom Smile has a very large part of its body, which he advises you not to shoot, before saying, "just kidding." I took Kess's "just kidding" line seriously in my first playthrough, and it paid off in the end, as shooting the Phantom Smile's shrapnel head or enlarged arm yields the death of the smile. However, shooting any other part of the Phantom Smile will cause it to teleport towards you.
お前はもう死んでいる。何？
ending in an unfavorable manner. Unlike the speed smile from Angel, the phantom smile is seen during quite a few of the following targets. After the fight in the Vinculum Gate, we switch personae to Harmon and roll towards the room of Fukushima himself, where we are greeted by his secretary, Julia Kasugi. Harmon is wheeled towards Fukushima, and they begin a nice discussion regarding Fukushima's job as an architect for the Japanese government.
You mean to design and devise?
Fukushima orders Julia to bring in some refreshments, and he claims that Japan didn't have what it took to compete with the rest of the world. As Julia returns, Smith compliments her before she pulls out a gun and swiftly kills Fukushima. What follows afterwards is a shootout between a Smith of your choosing and Julia. The game automatically switches you to Mask, which is a death sentence, as the player cannot win as Masked A Smith. After falling in the shootout, Julia warns the Smiths to back out of this dangerous game, claiming they can't win against the Yakumo party. She then grips her necklace and triggers an explosion, ending her life. We aren't quite done with Sunset, however, as this level is split into two parts, so let's move on, shall we? After taking a quick break at his trailer house, Garcian is left with no other option than to go see Kasai, the informant mentioned by Mills. It is revealed here that, holy Jesus, Garcian is way taller than Kasai. Kasai informs Garcian that Mills has ordered for the assassination of Jean de Paul, who was previously seen by Masked A Smith while he was staging as an apprentice cook at Restaurant Fukushima. DePaul has killed many government officials, and Kasai suspects that his next targets reside at the Kaku building, where the negotiations between the Japanese and US governments are taking place.
Guess I'll be on my way then. Sayonara.
I am very happy to say that I love the cutscenes shown during Sunset 2. I feel they are beautifully animated and are very effective at conveying the story. All of the cutscenes have some sort of underlying theme to them, which is conveyed naturally through the dialogue and visuals. But enough gushing about the cutscenes for now. Let's get to the gameplay. The puzzles encountered during the Kaku building require some knowledge of gambling, as well as some memory. The dice roll is completely random and just requires disabling of a fuse box, with the assistance from Coyote. The cards in Horse Race require that the player remember specific designs and order of numbers respectively, and the poker hand requires the player to know that a royal flush beats any hand. During this continuation of Sunset, we also encounter some more new smiling faces. The diver smile is seen yet not introduced, as it simply drops from a nearby place of high elevation. Other than the weird jetpack on their back, these smiles are functionally and visually similar to regular smileys. The poison smile is introduced upon entering the Kaku building, and cannot be killed unless it is shot in the weak point, unlike other smiles who can die from simply being overtaken with lead. The mother smile is seen on floor 3 alongside a duplicator. The mother smile functions similarly to a duplicator, but can start walking towards a smith if annoyed enough. As for the Vinculum Gate smile, we get this thing, the backside smile. You must shoot the sides on the backside's arms to turn it around and hit its glowing yellow weak point. I have way too much trouble with these smiles for whatever reason, but to each their own. Similar to the Phantom Smile, the backside will show up during every target after sunset, excluding the epilogue. This would be torture for me if there wasn't another way of getting rid of the backside smile. Instead of turning this thing around, you can switch to Mask and charge up a focus shot to instantly kill the backside smile. This also still yields a blood reward, so it's a good deal all around. After ruthlessly fighting our way through the Kaku building, passing by some security, and fighting the backside smile, We make our way to the basement, where a cracked wall blocks our way. This, of course, is no trouble for Masked Day Smith.
We meet again, babyface.
So, you were behind this after all. I guess my speech was meaningless.
Lucha Libre is for kids. But you know, you are great with the kids, Masked Man.
Children are pure. They know who's the strongest.
Jean de Paul is back and lusts for blood of our Lucha Libre friend Mask. Luckily for us, the ceiling above Jean de Paul is very fragile, and upon dropping some onto Jean's head, he loses the urge to fight and takes his own life. A very anticlimactic and confusing end to his character. Continuing onward, we discover he was approaching the Mahjong room, where the negotiations are not so much taking place as they are falling apart.
Lawn. Bullshit! Enough of the cavilling. This is pathetic.
Hey, yo! Cheater! That's a footy-tan! You got no hand.
What? Shit. It's all over.
As we take in the bloody scene in front of us, we proceed to the roof, where Hiroyasu Kurahashi and Shinya Akiba reside, after having their heads blown open by Matsuoka Kenjiro, or Matsuken. The boss battle that follows this cutscene is fairly simple, once you figure it out. The only hint given on how to fight these guys is Kes saying, "Old man, your tie is crooked." This is not nearly enough information, as even after seeing that hint, I still needed to look up a guide to figure out that you need to shoot Akiba when he goes to fix Kurahashi's tie, and shoot Kurahashi when he leans over to check on Akiba. The track that plays during this boss fight, Succession, is also not really my cup of tea, though there are some people that may like it. Now that Kurahashi and Akiba are dead, and negotiations have fallen apart, Japan is damned to fall. Garcia and Mills realize this and discuss atop the overpass the repercussions of this incident.
What can you do when the whole world has its eyes on you?
Almost everything. Destroying one or two nations? It's an easy task here. The promise made 30 years ago wasn't a guarantee. It was only the beginning of a countdown. Look at them. They're heading toward hell.
What's sad is that we've gotten used to this. I mean, our senses. That's pathetic.
That doesn't necessarily mean that we're not human.
Okay, now you're not helping.
After the destruction of Japan, the Smith Syndicate remains quiet for just over a year, until the events of Cloudman. Cloudman is the target that everyone remembers almost everything about. The scenes during this target have so much character to them, and find ways to touch into the human element, even being part of a game as surreal and out of the box as this. This target contains some of the best characters I've seen in a video game yet. With that being said, one might expect me to say that Cloudman is a really serious target that doesn't like to mess around. This couldn't be any further from the truth. Don't believe me? Take a look at the opening cutscene.
The name's Andre Almeida. I am a man with a plan. The people will come to me for salvation. I have a hunch that something's gonna happen. Take this Stacy concert going on right here. Something very bad is gonna happen here. You ever met the kind of people that come to these Stacy concerts? These dudes have got energy to spare. We're talking guys who beat off 4 times a day. This is an epicenter of energy, man. But this Stacy they love, she's an illusion. But in the new age, there's no fooling them. No, sir. They won't be tricked by illusions anymore. Oh my God. I can't hold back. Oh, God. Oh, I'm coming. Oh. Yeah! Woo! See, I told you, this is real.
Despite the sheer craziness seen during this target, it still manages to convey a surprisingly realistic, if not a little futuristic and supernatural, story. I think this is why everyone seems to adore Cloudman. I think I've gone on quite long enough, so let's do a quick return to form and go through Cloudman in the way we have for Sunset. After watching Olmeda's speech and witnessing him beg for Garcian to go and find him, Garcian's breakfast is interrupted by the requisite phone call from Mills, and after checking in on Samantha getting freaky, Garcian informs Harmon that Andre, though not being a big influence, is causing quite a stir in the South. Mills, unlike the previous target, doesn't have much information on Olmeda, or rather questions his abilities to act against the Syndicate. Garcian, on the other hand, feels off and tells Mills,
I feel something. Like somebody's calling out to me.
Mills tells Garcian to ignore this feeling. Garcian swiftly moves to the topic of Andre Olmeda, suspecting he resides in Texas based off of his Texas Bronco t-shirt.
Time to head south by southeast.
Before entering the Olmeda inner city, Garcian speaks with a farmer who seems to speak of Olmeda as some sort of being on a higher plane of living.
I meet him every day.
Garcian says that he thinks the posters around the city look creepy, but the farmer resents this opinion, telling Garcian to keep it to himself if he wants to live. Iwazaru and Travis also speak their disdain regarding Olmeda, with Iwazaru opting to remain absent for the rest of the level. Iwazaru is instead replaced by a member of Olmeda's cult. Upon entering the Olmeda inner city, it becomes apparent almost immediately that there's a lot that you can do in your pursuit for Olmeda. There's a semi-truck that uncovers Susie's hiding place so that you can get the optional stamina ring, which increases your health. On Terry Street, there are multiple houses, each containing a different assortment of enemies. You are only required to go into 2 houses, one for the odd engraving, and the other one for the Olmeda collection figurines. Speaking of which, Cloudman lacks a vinculum gate and instead requires the player to collect Olmeda figurines from a toy machine. To try your luck at getting a figurine, you first need Olmeda tokens, which are collected by killing a new type of Heaven Smile. I'm gonna roll with these segues. The new smiles are very few, but any new smile is a welcome addition in my book. Okay, I take that back. But before touching on these creatures, let's talk about the Olmeda smile. These smiles are similar to a regular Heaven Smile, but they are devoted to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Andre Olmeda. These smiles will ignore the Smiths unless their path is crossed by one. If this happens, or if you just want to kill one for fun, shoot the Heaven Smile in its signature Texas Bronco t-shirt weak point. Upon killing an Olmeda smile, you will be rewarded with the aforementioned Olmeda tokens. Now for the giant smile. Say it with me, folks. These smiles are similar to a regular Heaven Smile, but these smiles are very large and are certified Cyclopses. These smiles don't have a direct way of attacking the Smiths, but rather fall down in an attempt to crush and explode the targeted Smith. Their weak point, however, is located on its eye, which also closes every few seconds. So good luck hitting this constantly moving, surprisingly small target. After collecting our Olmeda figurines, visiting the postman, and making our way through the canyon, we reach the First Life headquarters' entrance, which is guarded by a locked gate that will only open upon answering trivia questions based on the propaganda posters seen just outside the gate. These questions are fairly simple, and I only had to go back to check the posters once or twice.
Sorry, only First Life employees are allowed from this point.
This is an emergency message from Mr. Olmeda. Let Mr. Smith through. I repeat, let Mr. Smith through.
Are you Mr. Smith? My sincere apologies, Mr. Smith. Please forgive me. But I'll tell you something, though. Even we don't know what goes on inside this building. Anyway, please, come in.
Determined to find Andre, we continue into the land of First Life Inc. Oh. I guess we won't be going into this large building, but rather a small trailer. Andre is inside and tells us his tales of taking big risks in life.
I infected myself with all kinds of deadly viruses. I overcame them time after time, discovering vaccines and creating medicine on the way. I overcame all the symptoms. But them Smileys, they're different. The risks involved are at another realm. I mean, it's flirting with fucking death itself.
Andre pleads for us to kill him if we were to ever become a Heaven Smile. Directly after saying this, the US military arrives to capture Olmeda and inject him with what I can only assume is some sort of Heaven Smile carrying fluid. What makes me say that? Well...
I told you to kill me. Now I'm going mad. I can't control this urge to kill. What are you gonna do about it? Damn. Get this over with once and for all.
Take cover! Hurry! Huh?
Andre, having become a Smiley, turns into quite an interesting creature, appearing with a red and black body, with red tentacles attaching to his afro, which is now multicolored and follows behind him. This boss fight is fairly simple, as Olmeda can only attack the Smiths by using his tentacles, which requires the Smiths to be in view of Olmeda. In order to kill Olmeda, you must draw him out enough to where his afro remains exposed behind him, and you can shoot it. The music that plays during this fight, known as Scene Man, is very extraterrestrial, is the only word I can describe it as. I love this track, and I would say it is my favorite boss theme in the game. So far. After we put an end to Olmeda, he dissolves into the air with one final laugh, and his blood begins raining down.
What happened to Mr. Olmeda? Huh? This blood. It tastes like Mr. Olmeda's. So, he's dead, isn't he? I've always had a sixth sense. If I had only attained Mr. Olmeda's level earlier.
Clemens, you're in control of things now. Walk down the path of life. Don't succumb to weakness. Take the big risks.
Rest assured, Master Olmeda, I will watch over this town. Our way of life stands eternal. May peace rest with our great Olmeda, our Messiah.
The name's Andre Almeida.
And now for something completely different.
Target witnessed 4 months later. Encounter. After a target like Andre Almeida, who is a very human character, Encounter provides a nice change of pace by revealing a target who you can't help but feel happy to kill. With the first cutscene played being a massacre delivered without an utterance of a single word, Curtis is established very early on as a ruthless killer and a man who prefers violence over words. As we'll find out shortly, however, the picture is far blacker than is currently painted. After that cutscene finishes, we cut to Garcian repeating his normal routine, having a bite to eat, drinking some coffee, and getting the call from Mills notifying us of a new target. Garcian checks in on Harmon, and remembers that Curtis was the one who killed Dan, who turned into a persona after somehow being recovered by Harmon. Harmon doubts Curtis's abilities and tells Garcian not to worry, claiming Curtis is
just a punk with a gun.
Mills has a bit more information about Curtis, and reveals that Curtis is an organ trafficker and may assist in the creation of the Heaven Smile. But he doesn't just use any organs, oh no. The organs are taken straight from female children. On that sour note, we head to the Ishizaka Land Fairgrounds. If memory serves correctly, Ishizaka Land is the single largest area in the game, housing the entrance area, the Ishizaka String Quartet, the fun houses, and the parking area. Each of these areas have a variety of minigames, items, and puzzles. The Ishizaka String Quartet houses the time ring, a few remnant psyches, some soul shells, and an upgrade for Mask Day Smith, which allows him to reload much faster. The left funhouse contains a few soul shells, some minigames to test your aim, and the Demon Gun, which is picked up and used by Dan Smith. This gun holds 12 bullets, and also does a bit more damage than Dan's regular gun. All that is found in the right funhouse is the final soul shells needed to access the Vinculum Gate. Speaking of the Vinculum Gate, let's talk about the new Heaven Smiles encountered during this target. The first that is encountered is the Protector Smile, but we'll address those later. Rather, we will move on to the Broken Smile. I'm happy to say that the Broken Smile is actually the worst that the Heaven Smiles get. It is near impossible to kill these smiles since they are constantly swaying back and forth, and also have a hard to reach weak point. Unless you have the upgrade for Mask, actually even if you have the upgrade for Mask, it's still a challenge to take these things down. In the left funhouse we come across the Ceramic Smile, which is a mini-boss seen only once in the game. This smile is very large and runs away from the Smiths. The weak point of the Ceramic Smile is its cold dead heart, seen in the middle of its torso. Shooting this heart will kill the ceramic in one shot. As for the Vinculum Gate Smile, we tackle the... Wait, what? Is that some sort of joke? Anyway, the Mithril Smile is similar to the regular Heaven Smile, but also has armor covering its torso, upper legs, and head. This means that the weak point can only be on the Mithril's 2 elbows. The Mithril Smile also moves very slowly, which is why I can't resist the urge to just laugh at this thing. It doesn't seem intimidating in the slightest. On a more serious note... Never mind! After fighting the Mithril Smile, and also not finding any of the missing children, we encounter Ayame Blackburn, the boss of this target. Ayame's fight is very challenging if you use the slower smiths like Kaede, unless you use Mask, which makes this fight a breeze. The only way to damage Ayame is to wait until she runs under a street lamp. While she is not under the light, she will remain invisible and invincible. Remember when I said that Scene Man was my favorite boss theme so far? Well, this fight's theme, Sweet Blue Flag, is the track that takes the cake. After not killing Ayame, she steps into a bus full of children and takes off into part 2 of Encounter. Wait, we have more of this? Before we get into Encounter 2, though, we get a little run-in with Curtis and Pedro Montana, a man who is not interested in playing a game of doubles, and also helps Curtis with trafficking the children. Having effectively failed in our mission to get rid of Curtis Blackburn, we continue on to the second part of Encounter. We resume right where part 1 left off, with Pedro held at gunpoint by Curtis.
Time to say your prayers.
Help! No, help! Forgive me! Forgive me!
What was that? Do I sense regrets? Just because you apologize, you think you'll be forgiven? Just like that? Didn't you notice the dead bodies behind you?
Huh?
Your folks.
No, you're lying.
Your wife's name is Pamela, right? And your son, Paul.
What have you done to them?
Pamela sure has a mole in a unique place. You know, it kinda turned me on.
No, you didn't. You bastard!
Paul, he's such a sissy. He didn't even try to save his mother. What are you teaching your kids?
Fuck!
Do you feel the hate swelling? That hate that comes from your grudge. It's merely a reflection of you. Ask yourself, Pedro, how many children have you killed?
Mary?
You mean your little girl, Mary?
Mary, where is she?
Right here.
This cutscene always makes my blood boil, and further solidifies Curtis as an emotionless killer who isn't afraid to do whatever is or isn't necessary to get his way. Luckily, it's time to put a stop to Curtis by going straight to the Blackburn residence, where Mills quickly wants to get this mission over with, as he and Garcian both mourn over the body of a dead child.
He's just an innocent little child.
I know. That's atrocious, ain't it?
There's already quite a bit that we can do even before entering the main building of the Blackburn residence. To our left, a soul shell, and to our right, a laser gate and a car puzzle guarding the power ring, which increases the smith's damage output. As we enter the main building, the song Blackburn can be heard playing. Many people love this track, and I also think that it is pretty good and fits nicely with the atmosphere. Our target is hiding beneath the pool, but since the security system is preventing the lights from turning on, we can't see a thing. Instead, we must take a detour to the second house, where we must deactivate yet another security system to access the main security room. On our way to the security room, we find a few engravings and soul shells as well, which are hidden behind fairly simple puzzles. Entering the security room, we see a familiar face, or familiar mask, I guess. Ayame Blackburn. Similarly to the first fight, Ayame can only be seen and damaged when she is revealed by light through the ever-random shutter system. Similar to last time, this fight is easier when using Mask Day Smith, but if you use any other Smith, you can see much more variety in Ayame's moves, such as her running across the width of the room, or phasing between windows. Either way, after the fight is over, Ayame's mask rolls off, revealing that she's the final girl that was seen during Curtis's massacre from Encounter 1. Curtis must have spared her and trained her to kill and kidnap. Unfortunately for him, the Killer7 are better than some otaku with an MP5. After disabling the security system and draining the pool, we enter the Vinculum Gate, which reminds me that I still need to talk about the new smiles. We'll start off with the Protector trilogy of smiles, which are all only able to be killed by Masked Smith. The Protector smile only requires a regular shot from Mask's grenade launchers, while the Protector Z requires a 1-vial shock round, and the Protector Z can only be killed by a 2-vial focus shell. Since there are no other smiles, the Vinculum Gate smile for this section of Encounter is the Laser Smile. This smile resembles a regular smile that is strapped to an upright operating table. The Laser Smile also has one tube coming out of each eye, which I assume is how the Laser Smile fires its laser. After disposing of the Laser Smile, we reach the end of Encounter, where we must use Dan Smith to face off against Curtis.
Danny boy, look at you. You've changed considerably. Into a badass, if I may.
Yeah, and you've changed a lot too. Into an old man. I went to see the devil. Now it's your turn.
Oh, my pupil, so tenacious of life. Guess I have to kill you again.
Shut up, before you run out of breath.
I got rid of those smiles. There's no one to disturb our game. It's just you and me.
Sounds fair, 'cause I hate holding back. Even for an old fart like yourself.
Talk all you want. I won't need 6 bullets for you.
Or 4 for you.
We'll begin when the bird flies. Can you remember that? Pink-ass punk, you're going down.
They duel in a game of quick draw, and they must shoot each other once the pigeon on Curtis's shoulder flies off screen. The pigeon, however, is evil, and will often fake out the player by flying before returning swiftly to Curtis's shoulder. After either Dan or Curtis reach 4 wins, the other will fall, having failed the duel. But since Dan has learned after being killed by Curtis in the past, he comes out on top, and Curtis falls back into the pool that he rose from. Dan smugly tells Curtis that his end has come, and comments on his interesting hobby.
Doesn't hurt to have a hobby after retirement. What do you think?
Dan is disgusted by Curtis's hobby of trafficking children, calling him a sick maniac. Curtis tries to ask for a closing of the curtains, but Dan doesn't think Curtis deserves a stylish death, and disposes of Curtis with his own machine. As Dan walks out of the gruesome scene, he looks to his sides, seeing the lifeless carcasses of the young girls Curtis has captured. However, this is only life. Wonderful indeed. And life goes on for another 2 months until a new target develops, an alter ego, if you will. I would like to preface this section by saying I wrote these sections out of order. Like, I literally just jumped from the Angel section all the way down here to Alter Ego, and then after that I went to Sunset, Cloudman, Encounter, etc. That being said, I would like to thank my editors, Simna Ibn Sindh, I'm sorry I probably butchered that, Ben, and Annabelle. These guys are great, and one also helped me with the speedruns I've done of Killer7. We start off with Garcian's regular routine, eating his meal, checking in on Samantha, and talking to Harmon. Wait a minute, that's not Harmon. Those are... After watching a news report, we are informed that politician Steve Thunderson has been assassinated by people that look like these underground comic heroes. Mills explains that our target, Trevor Pearl Harbor, writes events for the Handsome Man comics, and the events then happen in real life. So we're off to the Dominican Republic to assassinate this man. If you haven't guessed, Alter Ego is similar to Cloudman in the way that both levels have very odd targets. I mean that Handsome Man, not Trevor. Cloudman carried a lot of charm with it, but still had a human element, with the non-infected residents of the town either worshipping or resenting Olmeida's position as president. Apart from the guitar player from the beginning of the level and these things, if I can even count them, Alter Ego lacks this humanity seen in Cloudman. I feel that some elements could have been added to further develop this lost city in the Dominican, as well as add some more character to Trevor Pearl Harbor. From a gameplay standpoint, Alter Ego is a very fun and challenging level, and is also one of the largest singular levels in the game, just behind Encounter 1. In Alter Ego, you must venture through this lost city in the Dominican Republic and recover color samples to be used to access Trevor Pearl Harbor's mansion. These color samples take the place of soul shells, as this level completely lacks a vinculum gate. Just because there is no vinculum gate doesn't mean there aren't new smiles, however. Meet the Roller Smile, the scariest enemy in the game. Roller Smiles curl up into balls and roll towards you at very high speeds, especially on stairs. Their design retains that of the normal Heaven Smile, and they also have a regular weak point, though they are very hard to hit due to their method of transport. The best way to kill these Heaven Smiles is sometimes just not to kill them. I recommend either taking a hit if you can spare the thin blood, turning around and walking as Khan when the smile lunges at you, in Mach that is, or, as mentioned earlier, going invisible as Kevin before the Roller Smile gets close. A particular shout out to that last tactic. Watching a Roller Smile go full speed into a wall is just great. Alter Ego definitely has some of the best enemy placement in its rooms that we've seen in the game so far. Some of the standouts being Roller Alley, the entirety of the church, and Windmill Plaza. While these aren't the easiest rooms to go through, I'd actually say they're some of the hardest, they are definitely very fun to go through. As for the visuals of the level, they aren't anything to write home about, but that's also not saying that they're bad per se. I don't think there's a single level in this game that I dislike the look of. The tracks that play throughout this target, titled Windmill, Corridor, Santo Domingo, White Sugar, and Margarita, are very nice, and have a very laid-back sound to them. The song Nest that plays during the fight with the Duplicator in the church is another very good track, and is heard in the next target as well. After obtaining all of the color samples and turning on the main gate's power, we enter Trevor Pearl Harbor's mansion and come face to face with the man himself.
It's Dan Smith, my man!
Yo, how's it going with next week's story, huh?
Whoa, this is unbelievable. You really came? I didn't think I had such power.
You're one lucky guy, you know that? Let me ask you, what happens to your prophecy if I shoot you right now?
Oh, I already wrote it. I wrote the story, so you'll die. Hey, it's almost time for their appearance. The appearance of heroes! You better watch out. These handsome men are tough. Trust me, I know, 'cause I wrote them. Kill Dan! Give him the old handsome wink stuff! Handsome wink!
Handsome baby!
Get down!
I suggest you don't get too involved. Unless, of course, you want to end up like this fellow here.
You think you guys can kill me?
I didn't know Killer7 had a sense of humor. It's showdown, Dan Smith. Here's a wink!
You'll pay for Black's death, bloody psychopaths, Killer7. Prepare to die. We are the Punishing Rangers! The Handsome Men!
Sorry, but your stupid series ends today. I'll finish you all at once if that's more convenient.
Fine! Let's settle this once and for all. 7 versus 7, fair and square. The place will be Broadway, New York, at 0400. Wait! I'm not finished with you yet!
Talk about characters out of a comic book.
Well, you heard the Handsome Men. We're off to my home state of New York to engage in some deathly duels with the Punishing Rangers. All of these fights are actually taking place in an online game, so each fight is scripted in some way. I'll let you figure out the specifics of the rigging, as you may be able to catch the triggers if you have a sharp eye. During Mask Day Smith's matchup with Handsome Purple, something very unique happens. Mask receives another upgrade, much like he did during the previous target. This new upgrade allows Mask to charge up 5 vials to unleash a flurry of missiles into any enemy standing in his immediate path. This charge shot does quite a number on duplicators in the next target. Just after the last fight, Garcian vs. Handsome Pink, is called, Handsome Pink erupts in a very bright light and reveals herself to be a professional gamer, Love Wilcox. She proclaims that she will take down Electro and Line Inc. to avenge Trevor's death, and with that, Kun Lan closes the curtain on this chapter of the game. Killer7 falls silent for 2 months, until we go on to the next target, armed with a big smile. I'd like to extend yet another thank you to my editors during this section, as most of what I will be discussing in this section is the story, as the gameplay for Smile is fairly simple. As for the story, it really picks up the pace during this target, and there's a lot to cover here, so I will just stick to giving the cliff notes like I have done for previous targets, but this time it's more like cliff notes. So, much like Encounter, Smile is a very serious level that continues after an out-of-the-box and humorous level. As such, Smile starts off on a fairly dark note, where we see Matsuoka Kenjiro from Sunset 2 standing atop a building with Hiro Kasai bound up next to him, before Kasai eventually gets blown off the building to the ground below. After that, we cut back to Garcian and his usual routine, eating breakfast, listening to Mills' message, checking in on Cement, Oh. Well, hopefully Harmon is okay. We head toward the Forbidden Room, where screams were once heard coming from, but now, the room is making no noise. Upon walking inside, we see Harmon and Kun Lan playing a game of chess, which Harmon proceeds to lose. After claiming a victory, Kun Lan tells the story of a young linebacker with a seemingly perfect life, up until he turned it all around by killing his mother. Kun Lan believes something awakened in him after an angel spoke to him.
Sure she wasn't the Hell's Angel?
I'm pretty sure she only had good intentions.
Garcian's presence is then noticed. Harmon and Kun start, well, I'm not even sure what this is. Meanwhile, on the overpass, Mills and Garcian sit in the late Andre Almeida's car, last seen driven by Clements. Mills explains that Japan is going to cook up a new, unpredictable type of terrorism. He tells us that we need to go to the Union Hotel in Philadelphia, where we will find Matsuoka, also known as Matsuken. He has a secret organization of over 10 million Japanese members, which, as Garcian explains, could all organize a massive block vote winning a seat in a state. As for the lines that follow, well...
The Master has disappeared.
Yeah, Garcia. About that. Look, I need to tell you something real important.
Go ahead. Lay it on.
Let's see. How should I, Okay. 30 years ago, you and Harmon...
As Garcine drops down onto the trailer of a truck, he hitches a ride all the way to Philly, where we begin the crusade at the Union Hotel, and plan to disrupt Kenjiro's meeting. But first, we have to check in.
Welcome to the Union, sir. How many nights will you be staying with us?
Actually, I'm meeting someone.
Oh, Mr. Smith. We've been expecting you. The top floor. Please use the elevator in the back.
How do you know my name?
I remember all the faces of our guests. Even your bag, sir.
Huh?
After that strange occurrence, it's back to business as usual, as the hotel is overrun with heaven smiles. Since we start off as Garcine, it's best if we go to Harmon's room and switch to someone more suitable for a job like this. Upon entering Harmon's room, we find Stewart, the replacement for Samantha. The layout of the Union Hotel stays constant throughout each floor, other than the lobby and top floor. Because of this, Smile may seem like a boring target from a gameplay standpoint, but the opposite is true. As while the layout may appear the same, the path taken to each soul shell is different, with different Smiles also appearing on each floor. As for the puzzles seen during Smile, they are fairly simple, like every level in this game, either requiring basic use of the Smith's abilities or requiring the use of a certain ring. I'm actually fairly sad to say there's not much more to say about Smile, for now. Finally, let's go over the new Smiles before covering this target's ending. The only new Smile is the Timer Smile, seen in the Vinculum Gate. The Timer Smile has a bunch of gross bumps all over its body. All of the pimples must be popped to kill the Timer Smile, but watch out, because when one pimple is left, the Timer Smile starts sprinting its heart out towards you. Other than the sprinting, the Timer Smile is really easy to take down, and is also never seen after this Vinculum Gate. After emerging victorious from the Vinculum Gate, we enter an empty suite, with a door in front of us that leads to another room. In said room are two men both physically and metaphorically shrouded in darkness.
I already handed him over.
Where?
How about I give you a clue?
You know we don't have time for puzzles.
Of course. A new informant is waiting. When you find yourself getting close to the truth, please come again. I'm afraid our time is up. Good day.
Time for another two-parter. After that abrupt end of Smile 1, we move on to Smile 2. Getting straight into Smile 2, Garcine heads to the overpass where he would normally meet Mills, but as the man in the darkness had said, a new informant is waiting. The new informant, named Linda Vermillion, reveals that she was the one who killed Mills. She says that Mills was a slave to the government, only following their interests. Garcine confirms this, stating that it's their job to do this.
He's making a move for the interest of the country, an assassin's job too.
Who are you, really?
I'm a protector of the country. You'll soon know who I am.
Hold it!
See? You already know. It's your last job. Use your eyes to decipher how the system works. And then, seek the real enemies.
After Linda walks off, we head out to the Coburn Elementary School for our last job. Travis is waiting for us out front and gives us some backstory to Coburn, saying that this was the original spot for where America's presidential elections took place. Before I continue, I would like to remind you that this game was made by a Japanese man who may not know American history, so if things in this world don't line up with the game's timeline, well, that's because it's a work of fiction.
I'm Japanese. How the hell should I know?
When entering Coburn, you can first either go to the classrooms or the data room. In the data room, there's a simple puzzle that involves counting and figuring out what symbol corresponds to what robot. After inputting the correct combination, we find Travis, who gives us a cassette tape player. This will come quite in handy if we are to find any tapes lying around. Before going to the main classrooms, let's take a quick stop at the bathrooms, where we find a courier pigeon and a tape. I forgot to mention them before, but throughout the game, we collect courier memos from pigeons scattered all across the different targets. All of these letters are addressed to someone named Amir, a name that sounds familiar from Angel. As for the tape, it was from an FBI agent named Hulbert, who came to Coburn to investigate if there's any connection between the school and the presidential election, as Travis was telling us before. At the end of the tape, he gives us a code to a safe. As for the rest of the tapes, they are found in each of the classrooms or stashed away behind a puzzle or guarded by some enemies. All of these tapes contain a piece of information about a student named Amir Parkreiner. This information will come in handy later. While we're still talking about the classrooms, I'd just like to say that I love the visuals of them. Some of the classrooms look normal, but have some flair on them, like drawings on a chalkboard or flyers posted up on the walls, or the science classroom L3D with nice lab equipment and diagrams strewn about. All of these rooms give the school a sense that it was once filled with life. After investigating the classrooms, we come across yet another simple puzzle, where we have to shoot a combination of lockers to open a door. If you shoot one combination, the door will open. But if you shoot a different combination, you will get the third and final upgrade for Mask Day Smith, which further increases his fire rate. While I am playing, and technically reviewing, the PC version of this game, I would like to point out that Mask's fire rate was so fast that it could lag the GameCube version of the game. Past this door is the cafeteria, which has the most beautiful looking duplicator I have seen in this game. The duplicator, paired with the track Nest from before, just makes a really cinematic scene before us. After that, we're on to the final Vinculum Gate. This Vinculum Gate houses my favorite smile in the game, which, sadly, we never see again. The Galactic Tomahawk Smile. The smile is built like a small tower of smiles merged together, and launches 3 rockets from its center face. You can shoot down the rockets so you don't meet a swift end, but you also need to occasionally direct your fire onto the Galactic Tomahawk Smile itself, so you can kill it. Behind the Galactic Tomahawk Smile lies the final cassette tape, in a hallway to the principal's office. A moment of silence for this cutscene, please.
And who might you be?
After Benjamin Keene meets his untimely end, we continue to the chairman's room, where we open a gate to a safe. Only Garcian's fingerprint can allow access to the safe, which Garcian opens through sheer muscle memory. It seems Garcian may have been here at Coburn before. After taking the engraving back to the data room, we can use it to open a terminal, where we use the information from Hulbert's tapes to confirm that we are definitely Amir. Confirming our identity unlocks the gym, where inside we find a hanging man and our old pal Matsuoka.
The press is gonna be all over this one. The United States cover will be blown.
So this is dirty politics.
The presidential election is in the hands of the Education Ministry. They manipulate the votes and bring forth political leaders.
Who's he?
Greg Nightmare. He was the chairman of Education Ministry.
What is United States? What is the purpose of the president?
I'm Japanese. How the hell should I know? Figure it out yourself. There are more important things. Shit. Like finding out who you are.
We see that Harmon Smith, like Greg Nightmare, was once a chairman of the Education Ministry, and further digging reveals that Harmon was the first chairman at Coburn, as well as the founder. But before we can figure out anything else, we see Greg isn't dead yet, and after exploding his lower half, a new type of smile appears, the black smile. These smiles appear to be invincible, but maybe this gun will help. But none of the Smiths are able to handle the power that comes with the golden gun, except for Garcian, who puts a swift end to the last black smile, as well as Greg Nightmare. With that, Garcian walks out of Coburn, and into part 3 of Wait, there's a third? Since this chapter of Smile is very, very story-based, I'm going to speed it up quite a bit. So, Garcian returns to the Union Hotel to meet with the 2 men that were lurking in the shadows. While he makes his way up towards the floor they reside on, Garcian relives the murders of Kevin and Dan, who were all put to rest by Garcian's golden gun. On the top floor, the remnant psyche of Mills is there to comfort Garcian, who is, uncharacteristically, crying. After seeing Mills one last time, Garcian proceeds to the room from before.
Naturally, I found myself being led to this place.
Long journey, but it ends here, Garcian. Now, I think it's time I called you by your real name, Emir Parkreiner.
Emir?
Allow me to introduce myself. My name's Harmon Smith. I'm the man you saw in your past. Do you remember the incident where 6 people were murdered in this hotel? You must have seen it yourself. Because you were the killer. The assassin, Emir Parkreiner, was the ace of aces. Who would have thought the killer was a mere 13-year-old? It was a deliberate crime targeted toward the Smith Alliance. It consisted of 7 members, but the leader wasn't included in the 7. Later investigations found his dead body inside a safe of a school. The investigative unit called them the Killer7. But the whole affair was never made public, not because this was an aberration from society, but because it involved national security issues. Unfortunately, a curse brought upon you by old traditions. You, Emir, are an assassin controlled by the government. Someone is watching your every move. From the second when I first took you in on the roof. You were one of the very few assassins with class, but you were out of control. Still, there was something venerable about you. Then it occurred to me, you were no longer a mortal being. Within you, ever so quietly, evil had opened its eyes.
As for what happens next, well, I'm not really sure how to explain.
Nice view, isn't it?
It's different. Time here is warped.
To finish this game peacefully is my last wish.
Guess that won't happen. We've been interrupted again.
Has another come to surface?
A sight for sore eyes.
Haven't seen you around for a long time.
Come in.
Please.
After that, Garcian walks up to the roof and finds Amir Parkreiner himself. I'm not really sure how to explain this scene, but as my editor Simna puts it, some people view it as Garcian coming to terms with the fact that he killed the Smiths and that they were all personas in his mind the whole time. Others view it as him realization that despite being controlled personas of dead people, masked real people, and all of the ghosts and killers Garcian Kaede were real people as well. But in the end, the person who was least real was Garcian himself, a coyote created in the mind of Amir when he failed to commit suicide. After Amir shoots himself in the head, Garcian starts crying, saying this was all a misunderstanding. As he opens his suitcase, we see not a saxophone, but rather all the Smith's gear laying inside. As Garcian comes to the terms with this revelation, the credits play us out, finishing off this thrilling experience of a game. So, in conclusion, wait a minute, there's a 7th target? Alright, let's just... Three years after the events of Smile take place, Garcian takes a trip in Almeida's car down to Battleship Island, where we can see that Garcian has changed pretty considerably.
My eyes. How green.
Garcian no longer needs to scan Smiles to kill them, and is now suited up in a nice purple outfit. Garcian makes his way through a dilapidated building to the Vinculum Gate Coliseum. Except we don't need any soul shells this time around. Going down some stairs and through some winding halls, we find who else but Matsuoka Kenjiro. He explains that the final Heaven Smile is waiting in the back, and that killing him will get rid of all of the Heaven Smiles. Matsuken says that before going to kill the final Smile, Garcian should kill him, or else he'll be given what's left of the Smiths a run for their money.
Your fucking decision.
Killing Matsuoka results in, well, his death, as well as the destruction of Battleship Island. But leaving him alive results in the UN party of Japan launching a full-scale attack on the United States. No matter what you choose, going through that door will lead you to Harmon's room, with a Harmon that looks very lifeless, and an empty TV. Beyond this room, we end up in Garcian's trailer home, where we continue to the basement and chase down the final Smile, known as the Last Shot Smile. It appears to be Iwazaru, and after shooting him, we can see that he is the face of Kunlan. In conclusion, Killer7 is a very fun game when it comes to gameplay, and has an incredible and complex story to boot. I could not recommend this game enough, and it is available on GameCube, Steam, and also PS2, but we don't talk about that one. Anyway, I smell a credit roll incoming. Until next time.
awake from your nightmare.
Harmon, the world won't change. All it does is turn. Now, let's dance.